All righty. So, you know, back to the conversation about the big picture. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We were talking about, a good analogy for this is that, we're using the analogy of the Titanic. That's kind of the obvious, one obvious analogy. But rather than sinking, we're overheating and we're dying, right? And brothers and sisters and brother and sister species are dropping like flies. And the biosphere is dying, and the oceans are dying, and the planet is overheating. And the global dimming that used to be protecting us from emissions is reducing. I mean, it's like a perfect storm kind of scenario. And what there is to do, very simply, is to join the network of conversations and join these conversations specifically about how to best build out the network. That's what we're doing on the Block Party. That's what we're doing on Snack Bar. That's what we're doing at the Solution Club. And I'm just really grateful for two things. One, that we have this clarity, and two, that conversations are popping up all over the place, right? And here's the analogy with, let's forget the Titanic, because this ship is not going to sink. I'm committed that this ship not sink, and I know all of you are. So let's all of us together commit to save life on Earth, as much of it as we can. Obviously, species are dropping at about a dozen an hour, and so we're obviously not going to save all species, but let's save as many as we can, and let's save as much of life on Earth as we can. And once we've done that, I think it makes sense to then shift our focus to the bigger questions of why are we here and all that. But one of the beautiful things about collective superintelligence is because we're going to get to the point where there's millions, eventually tens of millions of conversations happening in parallel all the time, that are explicitly and expressly about saving life on Earth. And because we've got tens of millions of conversations, we can afford as a species that some of those conversations be about precisely who are we and why are we here, right? Even though that may not be the focus of the majority, I would hope that the focus of the majority is saving life on Earth, right? Because that's the real emergency. Figuring out who we are and why we're here, I would argue, is not quite as urgent. It's extremely important, but just not quite as urgent as saving species and saving complex life as a whole. Part of the big picture for me is that it's about seeing, but not with these two eyes of mine as one person, but seeing as a species, right? So Stephanie's eyes that I can see, and my eyes, and Emery's eyes, and James's eyes, and Sandy's eyes, and Kevin's eyes, and all of us seeing together as one, as one like giant insect with, 15 billion eyeballs, right? That we see as a species. That we see as one species. And then we go beyond that and see as life. Why not? Let's see as life. And a beautiful first step is seeing as a species. And the way, see, to get these glasses, I went to an optometrist, right? Oh, wow, gotcha, right? For us as a species, to be able to see as a species, our species-wide optometrist is collective superintelligence. And the first step toward collective superintelligence is creating a network of conversations that's self-aware as a network, right? Here's the thing. See, all these conversations that are happening, they're not aware that they're part of an organized network of conversation. Yes, they're aware they're part of humanity. Yeah, we're part of life. We're part of the, okay, great. But are you part of a systematically and programmatically organized network, meaning that it's actually programmed in? There's software supporting it. You're hyper-connected. You're actually connected. So, oh, we're all in the same ether and I don't need computers. No, you need computers to be hyper-connected, programmatically, systematically, for data to transfer and for us to be on these video conferences and et cetera, et cetera. Emery, you got your hand up. Go for
it. Yeah, I'm all for identifying conversations also. You know, I think there's a big need and urgency for that as well, to identify and then index the conversations so that we have good access to them, so that we can share these conversations with our fellow human beings, so that they can participate and do their share if they choose to. And you know, I think that the motivation will occur as people become aware of all these other conversations that we could point to and direct them to. And hopefully we'll be able to do this on this platform with our snack bar and our maps and our numerous maps that will be created to facilitate this. And you know, we got to move on it fast.
Exactly. And Emery, I appreciate that you mentioned numerous maps that are going to facilitate this, because that's exactly the case. I mean, just like Jamin came up with his map for the big picture, everyone's invited to come up with their own map. And, you know, we'll find a way to get, I mean, ultimately, I don't care if there's a million different versions of maps. Some of those are going to bubble to the top. And, I mean, some of the stuff is just obvious, right? Like SRM and ending hunger, and economic and political transformation, so that we can more effectively, you know, think and communicate and operate as a united humanity, as a single, you know, as a united species.
When I look at a Google map, Jamin, you know, I'll scroll in closer and closer. You know, when I first get to the map, I see an overall view, which is very helpful. I get an overall view, right? But then I scroll into it, right? And I get closer and closer. And the deeper I go, the more maps that are opened up to me, right? It becomes a lot more clear as to which road I'm going to drive down. So that's what we're creating here as well, is layers of the map are going to open up. And I think that's
exactly. I love it. It's like a fractal. It really is like a fractal.
Exactly.
And actually, the fractal does not end until you get to literally each and every person on the planet. And, you know, Stephanie, what are you doing? I'm just asking hypothetically. You don't answer. I'm just using you as an example. But, you know, Stephanie, what are you doing? I think that's a reasonable question when the house is on fire, right? I don't say it as a challenge. I don't say it as an insult. I just, you know, I ask because, you know, the collective superintelligence has determined that this is the optimal sequence of events right now to get us out of this mess. Not that everyone's going to do their part in that, but everyone should at least be aware of what the collective superintelligence has generated in terms of the optimal plan, right? And then just like sometime in the 1970s and to early 1980s, we went from being a society that just threw its trash on the street anywhere, sidewalk, wherever, to don't mess with Texas. That was a famous anti-litter campaign. And it worked, right? And for the state of Texas, each state had their own campaigns. But just as we went from a society that didn't give a crap about littering to what, whoa, don't litter, you know, don't do that. We're going to go from, we're rapidly going from a society that says, oh, I don't care, I'm just in it for me, right, to what can I do to best contribute to the saving of life on Earth? Don't you guys feel that cultural transformation happening? Do you feel it? Isn't that just crazy exciting, right? That we're going from, oh, I don't care, I'm just in it for me, to, wait a second, what can we do? Isn't it amazing to be alive at the moment in history when this is happening?
Exactly. I mean, we see that here, or we see a version of that here, or happened here in Ireland, like where, you know, people had enough, and, you know, what you'd call the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, when they tried to impose meters on our water supply and charge us for the water, and we just said no, not had enough for that anyway. Like, so we just rose up as a people and said, no, we ain't having it, and we don't care that you spent 180 million euros on the meters. Tough shit, it's not happening. And we rose up as a people and we said no, and that was an inspiring movement here in Ireland, which inspired the younger people then afterwards to rise up as well, especially with the BGLP crowd and all that, and they you know, fought for their rights and got the you know, their legal rights here in Ireland as well. Anyway, the point is that it inspired the movement, and that feeling is already vibrant, not just here in Ireland, it's vibrant all over the world, I feel, as well. And this is the platform for that. Like, it is the platform to go where we can discuss these conversations. And in that vibe alone, you know, people will see that this is a way of, you know, contributing in any way we can, no matter how small, in the conversation. It all helps the collective.
Totally. And, you know, it's actually a medium that unites a people. And for example, here in the United States, so early in the country's history, after the Revolutionary War, you know, because at first we were just a bunch of colonies, and then we united as a bunch of colonies, and over, you know, kicked out, you know, the British Empire. But we were very young as a nation, right? Previously, we were separate colonies, just as like different countries in Africa were different colonies at one time, right? And so we were really, you know, we didn't have an American identity. We didn't have that. We had a, you know, identity of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, et cetera, but we did not have an American identity. And what gave us an American identity was the newspaper and books, American books, newspapers about the country, about Americans. And so we read about ourselves as a people through print, through text. Conversely, now fast forward 240 years, right? And we are now a world which is being united by a medium. But it's not print. Facebook gave that a good go, and how well did that turn out? No, we're being united by this medium, by creating a vast network of actual conversations. And just as with the Revolutionary War, we were united by a crisis. We got sick and tired of being dominated and kicked around. And so that crisis united us. Likewise here, we're being united by crisis. Now, we got together before the coronavirus was a big thing, right? So we were united by the crisis of planetary overheating. So we had kind of a really big early jump on it. Now, but you know, just think back to the days when you were first learning about planetary overheating and its implications. It took a while for that to sink in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And but because of the previous conversations we've had in previous block parties prior to the coronavirus, we already see that the connections of everything to that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're way out ahead of the curve. Way out ahead of the curve of humanity as a whole. And it's, you know, it's so I think we need to be patient, of course, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily want to take our foot off the accelerator, because there are a lot of other people who are out there ahead of the curve like us, and we simply need to be united. I mean, it's that simple. We simply need to be united. How do we need to unite? Here, I'll do a screen share. Boom. Collective superintelligence. And everything that we've been talking about that for years, it now needs to happen. There's just no two ways about it. And we're going to figure out the journey to get there, the journey to get to collective superintelligence, right? And along the way, we'll be getting more and more and more and more and more intelligent as a species, and we'll be able to do more and more and more and more of this solution development and implementation. So, you know, right now, there's probably on the order of millions of us who are essentially very predisposed to our message, right? It's probably 1 in 1,000 humans who's basically dialed in enough to say, wow, love the message, love the idea of collective superintelligence, let me jump in. If you're one of those 1,000, if you're one of those 1 in 1,000, if you're one of those millions, please don't wait. Please jump in. We need you as quickly as possible.
If you're one of those millions, you'll automatically see it's the way to go once you do delve in anyway.
Yeah. And when you do see it, 2 things. Number 1, jump in. Number 2, tell all your friends about Snack Bar. with urgency. Or if there's some place better to go than Snack Bar in terms of building a network of actual conversations about saving life on Earth, please tell us so that we can go there too. Don't leave us stranded out here, right? If there's a better place to be. Because ultimately, we all need to end up in the same place, the same network. Again, I don't care if it's decentralized, on the blockchain, whatever, great. You know, love it. But it needs to be one place. There's one Bitcoin. There's not a million Bitcoins. There's a million cryptocurrencies, but only one Bitcoin. There needs to be one central place, decentralized, but singular. There it is, not central, but singular. Decentralized, singular. One place, decentralized. I mean, it's as simple as that. That's the definition of united humanity right there. A singular network that talks with each other and that really gets together and really buckles down and says, there's nothing more important than this right now.
Yeah, it is like you were saying in an earlier conversation there tonight, Jim, and it's like any one person trying to imagine how they're going to try and get to space would find it impossible to do it himself. Like, but once you have NASA there, then and you have the collective intelligence of NASA, and they designed it and they figured it out and they did it. Like, so this is it. Like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing.
It's the same exact thing. That was a planetary mission that they took on to go from basically one big round planet to another big round thing. They call it a moon, but hey, might as well be another planet. And they did it. This is a planetary thing. It's planetary scale. Emery, you typed into the chat, Resonant Technologies Group and their initiative. Is there a Resonant Technologies Group? Or is that just a concept?
Yeah, that's on the Zoom page that Cesare and us put together. There's some links to it.
Awesome. Okay, well, see, those are the kinds of groups that we need to invite, right?
You know, it's the Unify. Familiar with them?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I haven't checked them out too deeply, but I've heard of them.
It's
Uh-huh.
it's exceptional. I've been listening to a lot of their broadcasts, and they're using the Zoom platform as well.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to touch base, or just be a part of what they're doing. I mean, we can just as easily help out over there and join up and be a part of the collective, and it works both ways. Highway goes both ways. So we're all trying to reach an end point here, right? And we may get there a different way, take a different road, stop in different places. We don't all have to stop and do things at the same place. But as long as we have our end goal in mind, that's what's important. We're on the same page with that.
Yeah, that is what's important, all right, Emery. But what's more important is that we get all those people that are involved with the same ideas and same goals we get them together now on the same platform, which is the snack bar, like, and get them talking about those
That's the
conversations.
idea. I'm bringing them in on the page that we've put together. So as we're bringing them into the light of our collective here, at some point they'll realize the efforts that we're making to bring them in to the picture. Their participation will come in effect at some point. It's hard to see that it won't, that it could not, you know. But efforts on our end is that we promote all of these people because their heart is in the right place, and I see that. I I listen to what they're talking about. I see where they're going with it, and it's all good. So I like to promote that, no matter where it's coming from, whether it's our association here or or wherever I find it. And I'm looking and I'm trying to bring people together, and you know. Um, the social media that we're putting together with AI, and the different platforms that we're trying to establish here to make it easier to get the information in one place and easily accessible to everyone. Um, at some point it's going to run really smoothly, and that's what's important. We don't have time to waste.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize one thing. I'm not saying that Snack Bar has to be the place, right? It might be one of 100 different networks that forms, right? In fact, that would kind of be the ideal, that we have a plurality of different networks, and then we bring all these networks together as a federation, and we establish standards and protocols and data formats, data structures, perhaps a common decentralized database. Let's do for all this data what Bitcoin did for money. Make it decentralized, make it unbreakable, make it unmessable with. Why not, right? And what do you do with all the video recording? Well, we establish protocols for that. If you're the author of it, back it up on your hard drive or something like that. And maybe we create a decentralized cloud service that we can back all the videos up to. YouTube, sorry, but I don't trust them. They've already booted us off of streaming, because we exercised our freedom of speech, right? It's ridiculous. Anyway, I don't trust corporate America as far as I can spit, because there's nothing to trust. What's there to trust, right? It's like trusting a rattlesnake. It's like trusting a coronavirus particle that's floating around. What are you going to do, inhale it and trust that it's not going to hurt you? Give me a break. These corporations are viruses unto themselves. They're a little bit bigger than the coronavirus, but way more lethal. It's the whole system. The whole system. We need whole system transformation. What's super cool is that the world is kind of very gradually waking up to the fact that conversation through video conference is our ticket out of this mess. That's the big gift of the coronavirus. and what a gift it is. I'm not saying I'm happy that there's coronavirus. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, you know, that that murderer also brought a gift with him. It's undeniable, right? There's no contradiction there. But this murderer brought a gift, and that gift was, it's getting all of humanity, not all of humanity, but it's getting, you know, hundreds of millions of people on video conferencing. When before the number was millions, right?
Yeah, and a lot of those people now are at home and they're confused and they're, you know, they're afraid. You know what I mean, of what's happening and what they don't know what's happening, because there's so much misinformation out there as well. So a platform like this is, you know, it's honest information. It's a respectful platform. It's so yeah, it gives them an outlet as well. Especially, you know, it is sad that it's something this devastating that actually confines us to confront our own feelings and our own fears. But it also, the blessing in it, as you say, is that it forces us to start thinking of new ways of thinking. So we need to put that thinking into conversation now.
Definitely, definitely. No, there is that huge benefit. It's forcing us into new ways, because everyone's now. It's like all the cards got thrown up in the air at once, and everyone's like, "How is it going to land?" But what's a given is that it's not going to land the same way that it was before you threw the tray up in the air. Sorry, Emery, you were trying to say. Go ahead.
What I was gonna say is that there there are so many conversations going on as we speak now. You know, there's millions of them. You know, well, not saying millions, but there
are millions.
I
No joke. Look, right now, Nolan and his dad are off singing happy birthday to their 94-year-old grandma, and it might be the first time she's ever been on a video conference. Half the world is on video conferencing right now. Not half.
But what I'm trying to point out is that all of these conversations have a certain subject matter, okay? They're focused on something that is not necessarily a global priority, okay? It's personal, it's personalized, and it's in close quarters of family, close friends, co-workers, small companies, businesses. You know, they've landed in a position where they still have to come together and communicate their project and get things organized. And they're not, you know, the virus now and the separation has led them to use the platform more. And there's thousands and thousands of people using this platform, and different ones, not necessarily Zoom alone, but other ones that are sprouting up and taking a share of the market. And, you know, our priorities that we're establishing here and bringing to light don't necessarily match up with all of the ones that exist now and that are ongoing. Now, to index all of these, of course, is a good idea. We want to index all of these conversations and direct people to conversations of interest, so that they can access and be a part of those conversations, you know, in real time. But you know, there's such a vast variety of these conversations you know, we're going to take a position where we're going to at least prioritize certain types of conversations which we feel as a collective here with our group as being priority over other ones. Not to say that we're diminishing the importance. I mean, they are important, you know, to those people, but in a global sense, okay, faced with what we know is coming down the pike, right? We have to, you know, be honest and point out the elephant in the room, you know. So, but
Yeah,
that's down the road.
yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Marie, but statistically there, response to that, there was a news report, an American news report, I'm not sure what channel it was, no, but it was CNN or something like that, last week during the Zoom bombing campaign by the groups of teenagers who were invading meeting rooms and, you know, posting all sorts of stuff and you know, saying all sorts of stuff. Either way, anyway, it made the news because it said that the statistics were that there was over 2.5 million Zoom conversations that were going on now in the Zoom sphere, and that this was the new phenomenon going on during it. So there's 2.5 million, that's statistically speaking. And of those 2.5 million, well, let's just say that the greater majority of those would be in business conversations or, you know, educational, organizational conversations that are going on in society and everything else. There's a greater number of those conversations as well that are being used in the private sector in the private section of society, where people are just using it now as families meeting to get together and have conversations while they're confined. So, but when you think about it, those families then have their Zoom meeting for an hour or two, and then that with their family, and they wouldn't be on it all the time. But then just they go back to their confinement then in the house. But they now know of the Zoom technology. They already have the app. If we have a way of reaching out to those people to let them know that there's still plenty of conversations on Zoom available with a wide variety of topics here listed on the snack bar, you know, and they're all about with one goal, making the world a better place for the children, like in a sense, like, because our future is about our children and the future generations. So that's what everybody's main goal is in all of the variety of topics of conversation. That's the premise behind everything. So, you know, the snack bar is the place that they can go to have these conversations and collectively try and come up with solutions for them.
You know, what's so cool, here's what's really cool. There are so many conversations to be had. There's so many topics that are of importance. It's kind of like too much for people, right? It's confusing. It's disorienting. And, you know, some people are just finding their little niche, whether it's permaculture, or whether it's backyard gardens, or whether it's picking up garbage off the beach or whatever. That's all well and good. But then there are those who want to look at the big problems and the big picture and how do we solve all this? And by now, like, look, just take the people who used to be focused on climate change. It used to be the only thing they talk about. Now they're talking corona and global dimming and climate change and how do we figure out this trio, right? Look, if you're dialed into climate change to the Guy McPherson level, you're dialed into the fact that we're losing global dimming, right? At a fierce rate. That's if you're dialed in. And if you're dialed into that, then you're dialed into the cause of the loss of global dimming, which is the coronavirus. So now you're talking about suddenly three different things. You're talking about corona, you're talking about SRM. Now, you're not calling it SRM by name. You're calling it global dimming, and you're talking about planetary overheating. So you see, it's forced even the diehard climate change folks to have to think about multiple problems and therefore multiple solutions. That's super exciting. And but because any given meeting has kind of this focus or that focus or this or that, it's kind of too much. Snack bar is going to be a breath of fresh air. You know what? I can go right to the topic I want to talk about right now because I have an idea. Right? Here's your typical human being. I gotta be me. I just gotta be me. Typical human being thinks they're unique, thinks they're special, and needs to express themselves. They're gonna go to snack bar. Sweet, I can find bam right here. Here's where I need to express myself. They click on the link and then start singing. I gotta be me. I just gotta be me. I just got this great idea. So this is going to be the place to come and present your ideas. Full stop. Your ideas for how to save life on Earth, for how to improve life on the planet, for how to do this, for how to do this. It could be small. It could be big. It could be permaculture. It could be planting flowers in urban areas so that pollinators can poop. Whatever, right?
So present your idea.
Pardon
right?
me?
So you come by and you present your idea. You stick it in wherever you can, wherever you feel.
Here's what we're doing. We're creating the Amazon of solutions for saving life on Earth and healing our planet and transforming our species and becoming a caretaker species. We're becoming the Amazon.com of global transformation. That's what it's becoming, right?
Free delivery.
Before, you know how like in a lot of second world and third world countries, there'll be people on the street at intersections selling stuff. And sometimes they've just got one item. It's like oranges or it's avocados or something, and they're selling that one item. I'm going to make an analogy, right? By analogy, you're driving down the street, you get to an intersection, and there's 3 different guys selling books. This one has a stack of title XYZ. This one has a stack of title ABC. And this one has a stack of title LMNOQ. All the copies are identical in each stack. Hey, do you want to buy this book? Hey, do you want to buy this book? They're like, no. They're like, people are like rolling up the window and saying, screw you, screw you, screw you, screw you. Eventually they'll find a book that's, okay, maybe I could read that. And we're coming along and saying, hi, we're the Amazon.com of books, which is how Amazon began in the first place anyway. We all know that. Hi. Or the Barnes & Noble, or the, what do you call it?
The Amazon.conversation.
Woo! We are the Amazon.conversation of transformational conversations. We're the actual.conversation. Actualizon.conversation. Actualize on. Anyway, the more we talk about it, the more clear it becomes what the mission is and how to get there. The frickin' Amazon.com of global transformation. And everyone's got global transformation on the brain. Conclusion, we're going to kick some major butt. And as I proved in the cannabis industry, it's better to be first than it is to be better.
What's something else other than Amazon.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like Amazon. Like we know what the Amazon jungle is, right? But what else? What other terminology can be used? What other descriptive,
Yeah,
such as Amazon?
I got one
Because
for
I
you.
thought if you could
Yeah,
use Amazon.
no, I understand the question and I understand the motivation. So here's one. We are the match.com of solutionaries and transformational conversations. If you're a solutionary, we will pair you with the right transformational conversation for you. That's our promise. And you know what? Here's what we need to do. We're going to create a bot. Oh, this is so cool. I'm going to start a new recording.